My name is Ian Power. Thank you for sharing your evening with us. The New Car Dealers Association of BC is pleased to see the province of BC commitment has gone ahead with an expansion of the clean energy vehicle point of sale purchase incentives and infrastructure. This was announced as part of the Climate Leadership Plan. The provincial incentive programs and BC's new car dealers have helped the province lead the way with the highest clean energy vehicle usage per capita in Canada. The Climate Leadership Plan includes expanded support for the Clean Energy Vehicle Program and the BC Scrap It program, as well as support for infrastructure, education, and economic development initiatives. Joining us on the line is Dennis Ragosa. He's the CEO of the Scrap It BC program. Thank you for spending some time with us tonight.
Thanks, Ian. Good evening. Glad to join you on the show.
How do you see this program? I mean, obviously, this is a good thing for your business. Is that your first and foremost thought?
Yes, it certainly is. I mean, first of all, the nonprofit, Scrap It is a nonprofit society, so we basically have act as a flow-through mechanism whereby we provide incentives for people who have older cars, and those incentives then allow them to get into a newer car or a bike or a car share program or a transit pass.
How does it work? Give us an example.
Yeah, let's say you had an older car, and it was, let's say, 15 years old. You would come to our website and do a quick calculation and determine what your incentive level would be, and that incentive is a function of which one you decide to pick. So if you decide to select, for example, a newer model car, then we got a carbon calculator that would determine your level of incentive based on your level of reduction of carbon.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a simple thing to use, actually. It sounds maybe complicated on the air, but
not really. Well, what's interesting to me when I'm picking up on this is, this is new to me. So, in other words, if I've got my 1990 Valiant with real velour seats, not those fake velour seats, mind you, and I come into the Scrap It program, I could go into another gasoline engine car and still qualify, perhaps, for some incentive.
Absolutely, and the level of incentive to go from the Valiant to a newer, say, a Prius hybrid, as an example, right, is a function of the MPG difference, or the carbon difference, basically. So you could get up to $1,000 from our program. If you decide to go all the way to a battery electric, we'll give you $3,000 just in the Scrap It program.
Now, just before I let you go on, how does that offset the added expense of going into, let's say, an electric vehicle?
Well, if you look at the incremental cost of an electric vehicle versus a conventional vehicle, it seems to be roughly, rule of thumb, $5,000, $8,000, depending on the model. We're not talking about Tesla territory here,
sure,
but really lower cost models. So the provincial government, through the CEV program, is offering up to $5,000 for a battery program, and that amount can be stacked with our amount of $3,000. So you get a total of $8,000, but you have to scrap a car with us. So you get rid of the old car, the polluter one, off the road, and you get into a new battery electric and save $8,000 right off the top. So it makes it quite an attractive option for folks who actually want to get into that kind of vehicle at a price point that's very competitive, really, with a conventional gasoline vehicle.
It certainly makes it easier. So for Scrap It, your deal is that you take these old vehicles and scrap them, turn them into money.
We give you the incentive, really, to go from a car to a car, for example, or if you decide to go to car share, we give an incentive to the car share program to give you a better deal, right? So there's different ways of doing this, but we do take your old car, and it's properly recycled, and all the component parts are taken out of it, such as the fluids and air conditioning elements and so on, and then the vehicle's actually crushed,
right,
and then it's shredded. Eventually it's shipped off as products, as raw material products, and as I say to folks, it comes back to you as a toaster.
It seems like a scene out of The Godfather, though.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm wondering how much of the vehicle, when you take a car to scrap it, how much of it is actually part of an environmentally friendly program. So, in other words, how much of that vehicle is actually under? I'm trying to find the right word. Environmental containment. How much of it ends up in the landfill, and how much of it is actually reduced, reused, recycled?
So, if you go through the component parts of a vehicle, let's say tires and batteries and fluids, right, and metals, different kinds of metals, right. All the tires and batteries and fluids are removed before the vehicle is actually crushed. Once it's crushed and goes through a shredder, there's really kind of two streams at the end of the day that come out of that. One is, I'll call it the metal stream. You could have aluminum, ferrous, non-ferrous, and all that's sorted out into a million little bits, if you will. And then there's other materials come out of that. For example, the seat backing of the seat in your, let's say, front seat of your car. Mm-hmm. That's often known as fluff. So there's different markets for that, and it depends what the price is for that. It tends to be a low-value product. And so often it's the only component that may be landfilled, but certainly all the metals have value. There is a big international market for scrap metal.
Well, we see that, yeah. I mean, lots of people are stealing it because they know that they recognize that there is a lot of value in scrap metal, for example. I'm wondering if you were, for example, to go from let's say a car or even a motorcycle and go to an electric bike, would that be something that would qualify?
Absolutely, right. So we're pretty agnostic. In fact, we offer incentives for electric scooters for the people who no longer can actually drive their car. They can come and apply to our program, and we have partnerships with all our vendors out there. We're a partnership-based program, so we have partnerships with the car dealers, with the car share companies, with transit, with electric scooter companies, and all that kind of stuff. So there's a variety of incentives depending on what your personal situation is and what your needs are.
I understand what you do, and I'm trying to see where this fits into this climate leadership program in terms of greenhouse gases or other kinds of emissions the carbon that we're putting out there is obviously something that many, many people are concerned about. A lot of people were upset that there was no added carbon tax in this program announcement. Is this something that you concern yourself with, or you're more interested in the actual putting away with the older vehicles?
Well, I guess my view about the plan, I think the Premier laid this out pretty clearly. This is a work in progress. This is the beginning, right? So she and the Minister of Environment laid out a plan here, sort of saying this is the beginning, and there's a whole broad range of sectors involved here. But I'm sure there's going to be a lot more to follow in due course, right? Including issues that, as the Premier identified, in terms of carbon pricing. For us, we're a piece of the puzzle. Transportation and personal transportation is a piece of that, but ironically, it's a piece that a lot of people can do something about. It's hard to do things about, for example, upstream methane emissions from natural gas. The average consumer can't do that. That's an industry question.
Yeah.
But for the average consumer, you can do something with your personal transportation mode and what you drive. So, but the other piece that's kind of forgotten through this kind of public conversation is that there's another environmental factor that's quite important related to cars. That's smog.
Right.
And in the summertime,
people who live in the valley know that all too well.
Absolutely, right. And it is definitely the case that older cars pollute more. So we've done all kinds of independent studies, comparing old cars versus new cars, and done all kinds of extensive testing on that. And generally, as a rule of thumb, your old car is about 50 times more polluting than a new one.
This is slightly off topic, but somebody who watches this daily, do you see a day soon when we will be fossil fuel free on the road?
Well, I think that's over the horizon. I mean, these things take some time to get there. But I can certainly see in British Columbia that electric vehicles have great promise in this environment because we have a renewable generating system for electricity. So that means that their carbon footprint of the transportation systems can go down dramatically and still meet our needs, right?
Sure.
In other areas where, for example, you might have, in Alberta, you still have some coal plants, well, it has less of an impact. But the companion impact is smog emissions. So if you can actually... For example, if all vehicles were electric in the Vancouver area today, the smog would be dramatically less because, in fact, there would be no tailpipe emissions, right? So there is this companion benefit that's very, very important in terms of public health because people get sick, right? There's a lot of people with lung disease.
Where can we get more information on the Scrap It program in BC?
It's pretty simple. Just go to scrapit.ca, and there's a world of information for anybody who'd be interested in becoming our customer, and we welcome them all.
Appreciate the conversation with you this evening. Dennis Rogoza is the CEO of Scrap It BC program, and that program is about to expand with the BC Climate Leadership Program. My name is Ian Power. You are listening to News Talk 980 CKNW.